Well, well, well. Welcome to our home. I hope you'll be comfortable here, said Mrs. Daniels. Is it that you don't know how to cook? You're in my house now, so you'll follow my rules, Mrs. Daniels said to Lacey, who was making food for her husband. Lacey, a young Nigerian woman, sitting on her bed with her phone. She's scrolling through a dating app, her face blank with uncertainty as she is trying to decide whether to swipe left or right. Lacey had always been cautious about love. Her friends had told her to wait, to be patient, but as the years passed, loneliness crept in. So when she met David, a charming man from the UK, something about him felt different. His smile was easy. His words were reassuring and his promises felt real. They met on a dating app, a world of pixels and swipes. But soon the words turned into plans. They had been talking for months, and the connection felt too strong to be fake. David promised her everything she dreamed of, a life in the UK, a future together. Lacey believed in it. She believed in him. In a cozy living room in Nigeria, Lacey is chatting excitedly with her friends. A suitcase sits beside her. She's preparing for her departure to the UK. Can you believe it? David is finally bringing me over. We'll get married, I'll be with him in the UK. It's all happening, Lacey said, smiling. Are you sure you're ready for this, Lacey? You've only known him for a year, her friend asked her. Lacey nodded enthusiastically. We've talked for hours every day. It's real. Besides, what do I have to lose? Lacey thought she was starting a new chapter, a fresh start in the UK, a marriage full of promise. But as the plane took off, she had no idea how quickly the fairy tale would begin to crack. Lacey walks into a modest house, a bit smaller than she expected. David is there, smiling, but the warmth in his eyes seems to fade the moment she steps inside. David, smiling but with a distant edge. Welcome home, babe. I've missed you so much, he said. Lacey hugs him tightly. I'm so happy to be here. It feels like a dream. David's mother, Mrs. Daniels, enters the room. She's stern, middle-aged, and carries herself with authority. She gives Lacey a tight smile. Well, well, well. Welcome to our home. I hope you'll be comfortable here, said Mrs. Daniels. Lacey, feeling awkward but trying to be polite. Thank you, ma'am. I'm sure I will. Later that night, Lacey and David sit in their bedroom. David is texting on his phone while Lacey tries to unpack. David, I was thinking, what about the papers for my visa? You said everything would be sorted. Lacey said to David, who was distracted, not looking up. Yeah, we're still waiting for some documents. I've sent a few things off to get sorted. Just give it some time, babe. But I don't want to stay here too long. What if the papers don't come through? Lacey nervously said. You'll be fine. Just do your NYSC here, help my mom out, and we'll get things sorted. David assured her. Okay. I trust you. Lacey, who was uncertain, said. The next morning Lacey is in the kitchen with Mrs. Daniels, trying to cook a meal. Mrs. Daniels watches her closely, arms crossed. You're not doing it right. You need to cook like this. Is it that you don't know how to cook? You're in my house now, so you'll follow my rules, Mrs. Daniels said to Lacey. I'm sorry, ma'am. I'm just trying to get the hang of things. Well, you better get used to it. David doesn't like bad food, Daniels said coldly. Lacey's hands shake slightly as she tries to stir the pot. It feels like she's walking on eggshells around her new mother-in-law. Lacey texted, David, I've been trying to get everything together here, but it's not easy. Feels so isolated. Your mom. David texted her back. I told you, just handle it. This is part of the deal. We're doing this for the long run. Lacey sighs, feeling defeated. A few months later, the papers were ready. Lacey was so excited she is finally leaving, and so they booked a ticket and left for a new life. In less than a month, Lacey found out she is pregnant as she looks at a pregnancy test. The shock of it hits her hard, but she tries to remain calm. Lacey's life grew more complicated. She wasn't just adjusting to a new culture, new family, and new environment. Now she was carrying the weight of a child she had always dreamed of. Lacey had been doing the work her husband found for her, of which they paid her £1,500 every month. Lacey, you will be giving me £1,000 from this money. I found it for you, and you know we have a lot of bills to pay for, her husband said without concern. She did not want any problem, so she obliged. It was already 6 months gone. Lacey's stomach has grown, and she's visibly exhausted. She's in the middle of making dinner when David comes in. Lacey, why isn't this food ready yet? You're supposed to be working too, you know. Why are you even at home? Lacey, who is already tiredly, rubbing her swollen belly. I'm sorry, David. I've been working all day. Well, I don't care. You're pregnant, you should still be able to manage everything. Don't expect me to keep carrying you. I told you to work, we have bills to pay. Lacey's eyes filled with tears. I'm trying. I just can't do everything. Well, you should. You can't just be sitting around all day. This is what happens when you get pregnant. You're supposed to work, not complain. I brought you here to work and make money, not sit around. David storms out of the room, leaving Lacey standing there, heartbroken. Finally time came and she put to bed. It was somehow complicated. So the baby came out through operation. Lacey was happy she finally survived, because she had been scared passing through a lot while carrying her baby. Lacey, you have to resume work, her husband said to her one afternoon as she sat on her bed giving her baby food. It's been 7 months now. We need money. So Lacey prepared herself and resumed work. She encountered a lot of stress taking care of the baby and going to work, but she managed. Few months later came her son's birthday, and she's struggling to get everything ready. David demands money from her for bills, but this time Lacey refuses. I can't send you the £1,000 this time, David. I've spent everything on our son's birthday. It's his special day. For the past 4 months I got paid. I gave you £1,000 each, David. David pushes her, causing her to fall. Lacey's heart races in fear as she watches him grab a knife. You are useless. I've been paying for everything. And I'm asking you for support, and you're talking about your son's birthday. Leave the baby. You're worthless, just like your useless family. I'll make sure you regret this. Lacey stares at him in shock, her mind racing. She had never imagined it would get this far. His hands were shaking, but the knife in his grip was steady, its coldness reflecting her fear. Lacey's voice trembling but firm. Stop, David. Please don't do this. We're a family. David laughs darkly. You're not my family. You're just here for me to control. You should have known that by now. I own you now after I paid your bride price. Get that into your head. Suddenly, Lacey's instinct kicked in. She remembered the pain, the isolation, the abuse. Her child deserved better. And for the first time she wasn't just scared, she was angry. She was done. She rushed to her phone, shaking as she dialed. The seconds felt like hours as the phone rang. Hello, emergency services. How can I assist you? Lacey's voice was unsteady, but she forced herself to speak. I need help. My husband, he's threatening me with a knife. He's been abusive for months, and I'm scared he'll hurt me or my child. I need help. The operator's voice was calm, but the urgency in her words was clear. We're sending someone to your location immediately. Please stay on the line. Lacey dropped the phone, not caring to wait for further instructions. Her legs buckled beneath her as she sank to the floor, tears streaming down her face. She was afraid, but she knew this was her only way out. The police burst through the door, 2 officers. They immediately assess the situation, one officer standing between Lacey and David. "Sir, step away from the woman and put down the knife," one officer said to David. David looks at the officers, his face pale and shocked. The reality of what he'd done is gradually setting in. This is a misunderstanding. She's lying. She's the one who's causing problems in this house. David replied, "We're not here to listen to that. We're here to protect her and her child. You'll need to come with us," the officer said to David. Lacey's heart races as David is cuffed. She watches, almost in disbelief, as he's led out of the room. The police took Lacey to the station for her statement. Sitting in a sterile room, Lacey shivers, clutching a cup of water. It felt like her entire world had turned upside down. But even as David was taken away, Lacey still faced the fear of being deported. She had no papers of her own. She had been relying on David's documents for her stay in the UK. Without his support, the threat of deportation hung over her like a dark cloud. After a week, Lacey's phone buzzes. It's a message from her lawyer, who had been trying to help her renew her papers. "Lacey, we need your husband's documents to continue the process. Without it, they may deport you. I'm doing everything I can to delay this, but you need to speak to him." Lacey's stomach churned. David had always refused to help her renew her papers, knowing she would have been dependent on him. In the midst of her thoughts, the door opens and an officer enters. "We've filed the domestic violence charges against him, and we'll do everything we can to protect you. But you need to sort your legal status. If your husband refuses to help with your papers, the UK government might send you back to Nigeria." Lacey nodded, the weight of her situation crushing her. The abuse had nearly destroyed her, but the fear of losing her son to a foreign country, alone, that was a pain she hadn't prepared for. Few days passed. Lacey sat alone, thinking. She couldn't let David win. She wouldn't let him control her anymore. She had to do what was best for her son and herself. Lacey took a deep breath, picking up her phone. She had made a decision. She would not allow fear to dictate her future. She typed a message to her lawyer. "Start the process. I'll fight for my rights, my son's future and my life. I'm not going back." At the lawyer's office the next day, Lacey sat in front of her lawyer, her face determined. She had gathered every piece of evidence, the abusive texts, the police reports, and even a medical report from her hospital visit after the knife incident. "We're ready to file a case for you to stay in the UK permanently. With the evidence you have, we have a good chance. But it won't be easy, Lacey," the lawyer said to her. "I don't care if it's hard. I'll fight for my son's future. I won't let anyone control me again," she replied. Lacey sat in front of her lawyer, her face a mask of determination. The legal documents were laid out on the desk before her. The lawyer flipped through them carefully. "Lacey, we have a strong case. The abuse, the threats, the way he manipulated you. All of it is documented. But the problem is your visa status. We need David's consent to proceed with the application for you to stay here legally. I know he won't help me. I've tried to get him to do anything for my papers before, but he always refused. He wants me to be dependent on him." "Well, I'm done with that," Lacey said. "Then we may have to fight this in court. We'll need to show that his actions make it impossible for you to stay married or remain dependent on him. It will be a tough battle, but we have the evidence to work with." 1 month later, the courtroom was packed with people. Lacey sat nervously in the witness stand, clutching a piece of paper in her hand. She had never been to a court before, and the intimidating surroundings made her feel small. The judge, a stern middle-aged woman, looked at her and then to the defense lawyer representing David. David was seated in the back, his expression unreadable. His eyes were fixed on her, and there was an unmistakable coldness in his gaze. The prosecutor stood up and addressed the court. "Your Honor, we are here today to argue that Mrs. Lacey Daniels should be granted the right to stay in the UK. She has suffered significant emotional, physical, and financial abuse at the hands of her husband, David Daniels. We have documented evidence of these abuses, including police reports, medical records, and witness testimonies. We believe this woman's stay in the UK is essential for her safety, and we ask the court to grant her full residency." Lacey's heart raced. She was finally being heard. She looked at David, his face stone cold, and for the first time in months, she felt empowered. This was her chance to break free. David was called to the witness stand. As he rose and walked toward the front of the room, Lacey felt a wave of anxiety. She had never seen him like this before, so composed, so in control. He sat down, and the lawyer for the defense began questioning him. "Mr. Daniels, can you explain why you didn't provide your wife with the necessary paperwork for her visa? Why has she been forced to depend on you for her stay in the UK?" The defense lawyer said calmly. David leaned forward, his voice smooth and convincing. "Lacey didn't need the papers. She was supposed to be helping me, supporting me like a wife should. She wanted to live in this country, but she wasn't willing to do the work for it. She wanted everything handed to her, and when she couldn't get that, she started causing problems." Lacey's heart sank as David's words twisted the truth. She could feel the weight of the lies suffocating her. He was making her look like the villain. But David had forgotten one thing. The truth, no matter how far buried, has a way of rising to the surface. The prosecutor stood up and addressed the judge with a powerful rebuttal. "Your Honor, the idea that Mrs. Daniels wasn't doing her part is not only inaccurate, it's irrelevant. David Daniels has used his position to manipulate and control her. Lacey was a victim of domestic abuse, not an unwilling partner in this marriage. We have more than enough evidence to show that she was coerced and mistreated." Lacey's breath caught in her chest as the prosecutor presented the evidence. The phone records, the texts, the medical reports, the police statements. For the first time in a long time, she felt seen. The judge nodded, looking at both parties. "The court will adjourn for the day. A decision will be made after further deliberation." Lacey sat back down, her hands trembling. She had made it through the first round, but the fight was far from over. The next court session came. The courtroom is quiet as everyone waits for the judge's decision. Lacey sits, hands clasped, her heart pounding. Across from her, David, in a crisp suit, watches with a cold expression. The judge enters the room, and the noise dies down. The judge looking over her notes, then addressing the court. "After reviewing the evidence and hearing both sides, I've come to a decision. The court finds that Lacey Daniels has been a victim of domestic abuse and manipulation. David Daniels has failed to meet the responsibilities of marriage and has emotionally and physically mistreated his wife." Lacey exhales, holding back tears. She couldn't believe it was finally happening. The truth was being acknowledged. The judge looking directly at Lacey, "Mrs. Daniels, you are granted full legal residency in the UK. We will also ensure that a permanent restraining order is placed on Mr. Daniels for your safety. You and your son are free to continue your life here, and you are entitled to full custody of your child." The room falls silent as Lacey's chest tightens. She was free. Finally, Lacey walks out of the courthouse, her steps light. The bright sun shines down on her as if the universe itself is offering her a new chance. She pauses for a moment, taking a deep breath. Lacey had won. But before she could fully embrace her new life, she had one final confrontation. She turned, spotting David standing in the distance, his face dark with anger. The man who had controlled her, manipulated her, and abused her. But now he was powerless. David approaches her, his voice sharp. "You think this is over, Lacey? I'll make sure they send you back. You think they'll let you stay here without me? You'll never be free."